This is the hardest video I ever thought I'd make. When she passed away, I felt like my creativity died with her. The day is 14th of May 2023. It is a Sunday, 7 a.m. in the morning. And of all the days, it just had to be Mother's Day. To this day, Mother's Day is a day embedded in my heart, is a day that I don't like. And yet it comes every single year as a reminder that I lost the most important person in my life at that time on that specific day. I remember I used to perform for Women's Day Orchestra, and to this day I still cannot. I can't perform for anything that involves seeing a lot of women, like only women in one setting. I cannot. Maybe one day I will, but for now, I'm not able to. On this particular Sunday morning, people are preparing to go to church, but my family and I, we are in agony. I get a call from the doctor as I was mom's next of kin. And the doctor asked me, first of all, am I okay? How's the family? Yada, yada, yada. And then he asked me if I can come to the hospital. I asked him what's up, but he wouldn't budge. He just told me, could you please come to the hospital as soon as you can? And when you get such a call, your brain goes into defense mode and you immediately know what's wrong. Because just taking you back, the night before, the 13th of May 2023, my sister and I woke each other up at night. We were like, something is wrong. Something is really wrong. We felt, both of us felt something leave, like a presence leave the house. And it was so cold, we couldn't sleep. It was so restless. It was the most restless night I've ever had in my life. So my sister and I were conversing and we were like, something is leaving this house. There's a presence that's leaving. Little did we know that our mom was passing away. So long story short, I called my sister to the bedroom after I got that call. And I remember telling her, I'm going to the hospital. The doctor has not told me what's wrong, but that call is not a good call. It is a call that you get when things have equivocably gone wrong. So I told her, I'm going to the hospital right now. I'm taking a cab, running to the hospital. But please, when I call you back, please understand, I will not be calling you with good news. And you need to prepare yourself to come to the hospital after you get my call. So I had already taken a shower because I was to go and see mom that day. I had promised to see her that day at 6 a.m. but I got late. I always regret that I was late. But you know God's plans. I get there and the doctor calls me to a separate room and he tells me to sit down. I remember being so relaxed. I wasn't shaking, nothing. I was just sober-minded and relaxed. God gave me the grace to handle the pressure that was about to come. And he told me that my mom had passed on at 7 a.m. that day. They did all the best that they could, but they were not able to save her. And I asked them once more, are you sure you did everything that you could? He said, yeah. And I woke up, I remember shaking his hand. I shook his hand, asked him to lead me to mom's ICU bed. I went, she was still on life support. So her heart was still seeming to move, but in real sense, she wasn't there. Her spirit, her soul was just not there. She was just under the assistance of the life support machine. So I inspected, I looked at her eyes. She wasn't there, you guys. Her heart, her hands were cold. Her feet were somewhat still warm. So she had not passed long ago. And I looked around and I told the doctor it is well. Please take her off life support and I can sign the necessary documentation. And I remember telling them a second time, because my mom had been in that ICU room for 3 days. And I'm still the one who had brought her to the ICU. I'm still the one who admitted her because I came home from work. I found her unconscious. She was with someone, she was with a caregiver, but it appears the caregiver had not given so much care. Immediately, mom's condition got worse. You'd expect she'd call, but she didn't. She waited until I got home and found my mother in a terrible state. And that's such a heartbreaking story. I'm not at an emotional state to give it right now. But that was terrible. I remember I had to, of course I had help, but I had to carry my own half alive mom to the cab and admit her to the hospital. That was so hard. It was heartbreaking. And on getting to the hospital, I don't want to say that the doctors were giving up on her, but they tried giving her as much first aid as they could, but she was not non-responsive again. And by the time, let me tell you, by the time I got that ICU bed, I had called across the country. No bed was available. It was at midnight. No bed was available. The ones that were available were asking you to first pay a deposit of an insane amount of money that I could not raise at that point. So anyway, after I told the doctors, thank you for taking good care of my mom for the past 3 days she's been there. And in honest truth, they did. I was there every single day, 24/7 hours there by habit. And they did their best, but God called his child home. It is not that I was faking it, but afterwards I came to understand that God gives grace for the period of time that he's going to take you through literal hell. And he gave me the grace to be strong, to be sober-minded, and to carry out her last respects respectfully. So I went out, I called my sister. She was already on the way, she came. Of course she was already crying. I made sure she saw mom because it's important for you to have that closure with your loved one. I made sure she saw mom. And one thing I did that perhaps was not in my place to do was to insist that I be there as they prepared her for the morgue. It was so heartbreaking, you guys. So heartbreaking. I still, to this day, nobody understands how I was able to do this with a straight face and with non-clogged eyes. I remember walking her to the morgue, and every single step I took, I told myself, she would want it done this way. She would want me to be strong. She would want her last respect done respectfully. And I used to call my mom my general because she was a very strict person. And each step I took, I remember, felt like when soldiers bury their general, the last respects they give them. Like each step was precise until we got to the morgue. I signed the necessary documentation and I called a family meeting. I went home to hold the family meeting of close and extended family members. But that's the short story. The long story, of course, is that my mom had been battling with sickness for a very long time. And it had gotten to a point where I once went to the hospital. There's a hospital I had been referred to, and they asked me what sickness she suffers from. I told him she had stage 4 liver cancer, and they told me she cannot be helped. As a matter of fact, they gave her 3 months to live. I remember I was in this person's office and I asked them, "You're a doctor. You've studied basically keeping people alive, and you're telling me that this person you cannot keep alive. Have you ever felt hot tears coming from your eyes?" It was so unexpected of me, but hot tears ran from my eyes. I went home. I could not explain to my mom what I had just heard. I went home. I was as encouraging as I could. And I pray and I hope she did not see fear in my eyes, or she did not see that I was troubled. But I did my best to, of course, encourage her. And after being given those 3 months, my mom did not last a week after that. She did not last a week. And I think God also prepares people, because the day before she passed on, she had called her kin, her closest friends. Given exactly, I was at work at this point, and there was a lot of people in the house taking care of her. And she had 3 best friends whom she has known all her life, basically. She gave her last respects, and she said exactly where she wants buried, exactly what she wants done. She gave her last will and testament. And to be honest, I thank God. I thank God it was her friends who were there, because they have been together through thick and thin. They've been together for decades, and I've never seen them even once not be in good terms. So if it had to be someone there to take her last will and testament, it had to be them. Because even in her death, they ensured everything she wanted was followed to the letter. My job was to just enforce what they told me she wanted, because I trust them with my life. And to this day, they still keep in touch. They still come to visit. They are there when she's not able to be there. I always say I wanted my life to have such good friends. So now mom is gone. I have done my best to carry out her last burial plans. My mom was buried in Langata Cemetery. She did not want to be buried at her rural home. And I thank God, because to this day, I still go to her gravesite. Every single time, I will wake up, just, Langata is nearby. It's near Nairobi. It's in Nairobi, actually. So I go there all the time to just sit, talk to her. And she's also buried near one of her closest friends for decades. So whenever I go, I'll pass by her other friend's gravesite and just say hello. But speaking of the funeral, just pray you have a good support team, because you will need it. Let me tell you, funerals can be dramatic. If you have a dramatic family, like most Africans do, you will need good people in your corner. That's all I can say about that. There's just too much to unravel, and too much pain in the drama that went on in mom's burial. But all in all I remember is the support from people, from friends. Even I saw them once when we were kids. I'm talking about mom's friends. They came from far and wide. People had traveled. They came from far and wide. But one of the most important memories I will say at this point is one time, and I know I keep going back and forth, but please stay with me, stay with the story. This is the most important memory that I took from that entire debacle, and it involves my elder brother Mwangi. Mwangi doesn't live in the country. He works from outside the country. And since my mother's sickness, since it got worse, he had not had a chance to see her. So he was meant to travel and come and see mom while she was still in the ICU. He was having trouble convincing his boss that he actually had an actual emergency. So I had to request the head of the hospital to draft a letter to send to his boss for them to give him permission to board a flight. Just imagine. Anyway, so Mwangi gets the necessary permission to come back, and I remember Saturday the 13th, in mom's ICU bed. I remember telling her, Mwangi is on the way. And if you can please hold on up until Mwangi gets here, then I know he'll be so happy to see you. But if you're not able to, it's okay. If you can please wait for him to get here and see you, it will mean so much for him, and I know for you it will mean so much as well, because she loved her son with her whole heart. He was her entire life. Even as the last born, I knew I wasn't the special one. It's always the firstborn son. But I could see the pain in her eyes, because she cried. For the 3 days my mom was in the ICU, she was unresponsive, could not raise a finger. I had called her mom so many times. It had gone unresponded. But then I mentioned Mwangi's name, and she almost came back to life. She cried, and then she didn't cry anymore. And it wasn't like a cry, it was just a tear came from her eye. Just a tear. That's more than we had been able to get from her for 3 days. And that's when I knew she really would have wanted to wait for you. My brother will see this. I know she would have wanted to wait for you, Mwangi, but she wasn't able to. But it's the memory that's embedded in my core, because it meant that she actually would have wanted to live, but it wasn't in her power to do so. And as I came to learn later on, she wasn't just my mom. She was God's child in the first place. She was never mine to keep. She was only a custodian of me and I of her, but she was never mine to keep. She was always God's child. And why shall I be mad or angry if God chose to call his child home? There's nothing I can do about that. But life after mom hasn't been easy. I think you need to go back and see the video that I created afterwards. After mom passed on, I had to move out of the house and start life by myself. It was not easy, you guys. Last year, 2024, was the worst. It was the worst. I had to learn a lot of things from scratch. I had to learn living life by myself. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. But at least I had a job. And I had such good friends who were there for me all through. And to this day, I always say, like, if you called me at that time last year and I couldn't answer your phone, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was just going through so much. So much. But I went through a 2-year depression. And you guys, I didn't realize I had gone through 2 years of depression until I came out of it. People would come knock my door, I wouldn't open the door. People would call and call relentlessly, and I couldn't answer the phone. I remember every time I went to answer my phone, I'd shake and just drop it and just continue crying. I couldn't cry when my mom died. for that whole 2 weeks, for the to finish up with burial and every other thing that's needed to be done. And then afterwards, after everything had settled, the tears came pouring like rain. That's when I understood God allowed me to break. And so for those 2 years, I've just been crying. I've just been crying and crying and crying. Nothing much. I haven't done anything much with my life. And that's when I remembered, after things started to get worse, I remembered I actually have a YouTube channel. I have been creating content since second year in campus, so I needed to give an update. That was my previous house. The house was painted green and purple. Green and purple. So I gave you guys an update and I told you I'm going away. I didn't say why, and this is why. I went away. It's 2 years now, but I am back. Am I doing better? Better is relative, but I am sane. My mental health it's a bit better. It's a bit better. I learned that I cannot wish or pray or cry grief away. You have to learn to live with it. Because some days are good, some days you'll just pass by something and you'll remember, oh, my mom used to love that, and then everything will appear as if it's fresh. And what I always do is, if I need to cry, I'll cry. If I need to cry, I'll cry it out and let it go. I am not the type to hold emotions anymore. I used to hold emotions when my mom was alive, but now that she's not there and I have to rely on myself, I have to learn to take care of myself. And that means when you need to let something out, let it out. Let it out. If it's a cry, just cry. The world will not end because you cried in front of people. But your world will end if you keep holding that in. But the truth is, grief just doesn't stop your life. It becomes part of your life. So this is me. Not because I've moved on, but because I've learned that I have to carry on with the life without her. Though it's hard, but I have to do it. I'm a big girl now, so I have to do big girl things. This channel is my way of honoring her, of finding myself again, and of sharing the journey with all of you. If you've ever felt stuck, like you can't go on, this is for you. Let's take it one day at a time. One cry at a time, and one laugh at a time as well. If you've ever experienced loss or you're finding your way back after a hard time, leave a comment down below. Let's create a community of hope and of love. So the music that's playing on the background is some of her favorite hymns, and yes, that is me playing my cello. So what to look forward to in the future? This is the part where I'm excited the most, because I've taken the time, I have planned myself, I have planned my year, how it's going to look like. I have freed my life to get to this point. This is in January. I quit my accounting job so that in January I start the year afresh. I want this year to just create content and music. I just want it to revolve around that. Content, music, being active as an artist. You guys know or don't know, I face paint. And that's how my year is going to look like. I am going to have 1 month where it's going to be like lifestyle content. The next month is going to be just music content. The other month is going to be face painting content. And it's going to be interchange. Every single quarter, I'm going to have a month where I do a different skill, because I'm a girl with many skills, y'all. So I'm going to do different things for each month. And a video after this, you guys need to stay tuned. I have a very big announcement to make, and you need to stay tuned for that. So that's how my year is going to look like. I asked my family to give me just this year. I only have 365 days to turn my life around. Basically, if I'm not able to do that, I'll have to go back to work. I'll have to actually look for work next year. So this year, I am going to give content creation everything I have. If you wake up and you don't find content from me, I'm sick. And even when I'm sick, I'll schedule content to go out. So always, there is content every single day on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube or YouTube Shorts. Stay tuned on the next one. There is a big announcement that is going to happen. You guys are not ready. You're not ready for this. But bye.